Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. How is everyone?
Well,
Yeah, not too bad, thanks. How are you?
Good, thanks. I hope everyone's having a great week.
do I need to wear headphones? Do you have an echo?
No, I'm good. Are you good too?
Yeah, it sounds good.
Okay.
Awesome. Okay, well, Dr. Brooks, it's so nice to see you again. I'm here with my partner Madeleine. She's event coordinator as well. So she'll
Great
be
to meet
joining us.
you.
Nice to meet you. Trying to get my logo in the
I love it.
basic.
All right. Okay.
Okay, it's not going. Okay, it's fine. All right. Okay.
Cool. All right. So thank you for coming on. You're actually our very first interview for our organization.
Okay.
So that's nice. And this is Madeline's first interview as well. So,
Okay. Hi,
Very excited.
Madam.
all right. So we have a few questions lined up for you, but feel free to ask us any questions as well.
Okay.
So the first one's just kind of general. Do you mind explaining your experiences from being an athlete to a coach, now professor, and just kind of how it all led you here today?
Okay. Yeah. So I started running track when I was 7 years old. And I come from a family of athletes. So my dad was always a coach. My grandfather coached him. All of the kids in my family, my sibling and my extended family, we always played sports. It was the thing that was the activity that our parents put us in. Um, Most of the people in my family, including myself, also happen to be really talented. And so if I think about on my father's side, my extended family, I have 16 first cousins and 12 of us earned scholarships to college because of sports. And so I was one of those people. My athletic scholarship was in track and field. I went to the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill. I was a full scholarship athlete, All American. I went to the Olympic trials in 2000. But along the way, I was always a good athlete, a good student as well, and learned about exercise physiology when I was in college. And so that sort of was my springboard and transition between athletics to what I'm doing now as a professor, because I discovered exercise physiology as a subject that would, if I learned more about it, I would also learn more about how to be a better athlete. And just really like that learning and knowing more about how the human body moves and how to train it and those adaptations. And so I started coaching while I was in college as a student and an athlete. I've been coaching since then, and so I feel like I have the best of both worlds in that I get to teach, but I get to teach about sports, and then I get to go and put it all to action when I go out and coach.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
I'm gonna put on my headphones. You might be able to hear my kids in the background. Sorry about that. Okay, this might be better.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay,
Perfect.
well, yeah, so it's really nice to hear your experiences in sport and health is definitely important to you. And I really admire that you take education seriously. Also because it's really important to me as well. I'm always student, athlete, and always remembering that student comes first. So I know you co-developed the Moving On program to help athletes make a healthy transition to life after sports. So how was the transition in your life after being an athlete for most of your life? Maybe there were some steps or any adjustments you made.
Oh, Brooklyn. Okay. Um, that's a really good question. The reason that I ended up working with Moving On really began with my own dissertation research. And my dissertation, the title of it is really descriptive. It was What Influences Black Women Who Were Former Division I Track and Field Athletes, what influences their post-competitive physical activity. And so I asked that question because I really wanted to understand my own experience. And my experience was that, as I just mentioned, as a college student, I studied exercise science and exercise physiology. As a master's student, I studied clinical exercise physiology. And so through all of that, I knew that physical activity was really important for living a healthy life. I could cite for you all of the epidemiology. I could cite for you exactly how to put together a health-related physical activity program. I could cite for you sort of the correlation stats between heart disease and diabetes and obesity and physical activity or inactivity. But once I was done competing for myself, really wasn't doing any health related physical activity. I would go as a master's student, I would go teach my aerobics classes because it was a part of my job, but then I would go home and watch TV or study, and I just wasn't doing it on my own. And so in my dissertation, I really looked at people who were like me to better understand my own situation. And what I found through that study was a lot of what we learn as athletes, so a lot of what elite athletics teaches has to do with performance and physical activity as this sort of utilitarian project in getting you to perform. The competing message or the parallel message that we try to teach in kinesiology, especially when it comes to public health, is that physical activity is valuable in and of itself because of the health related benefits that come along with it. And so in my own study, I realized that athletes are not necessarily taught that message because it's really hard to teach that message while you're also focused almost entirely on preparing in a way that's going to prepare you to compete and compete at an elite level. And so my own experience, I think, parallels that of a lot of transitioning athletes in that when I was done competing, I took a long break. I took a long break and I took a long break from any kind of activity. Close the door. I'm so sorry.
No.
All good. All good.
I took a long break from competing. Didn't really do anything. I wish I could say it was because of injury or something like that. I did have an injury, but it didn't really prevent me from being active. I picked back up on physical activity when I was pregnant with my first daughter, believe it or not. Because at that moment, all of these health related messages that I had been taught and that I really knew took on a new meaning because I wasn't just being healthy for me, I was being healthy for somebody else. And so I started walking a lot and really learned to enjoy it. And then also I learned a new value for physical activity when I was writing my dissertation because I would wake up in the morning, I would write, I would hit a writing block, and I would go out and think about I was writing while I was running, and that helped to clear my mind. And so I learned about physical activity during those things. And so now I run, jog, ride my bike, do yoga, something 6-7 days a week.
Wow.
Wow, amazing.
That's really
Yeah, I think that's great that you used your personal experiences to really drive that motivation for you to kind of co-develop that program.
Yes.
I know you touched a little bit on your education. So we know you have quite the extensive educational background, including multiple degrees within the sports science field and multiple certificates as well, including one in women and gender studies. So could you maybe tell us a little bit about how expanding your knowledge in different areas of sport and health has helped you, whether personally or in regard to your career as well?
Yes. Very good question. And mainly, I like the question because right now in my department and in a lot of kinesiology programs and higher education in general, we're starting to interrogate this idea of whose knowledge and what knowledge matters. And so when I was studying for the Women and Gender Studies certificate, what I realized, I was exposed to things like feminist theory And for me, the theory that really resonated with my own experience was womanism, right? And so that's almost like if you've heard of most people have heard more about Black feminism or intersectionality theory than womanism, but they're all sort of related in that um, the experience and the lived experience of a Black woman, Black American woman, is different, and the knowledge that comes along with that lived experience is different and unique compared to really what we see in the literature, in particular what we see in the kinesiology literature. And so that academic area of study, as well as reading outside of the discipline of kinesiology, has been a place where I could find voices that were similar to mine, but also where I could realize a void in my field so that I could contribute to that. And so just as an example, I mentioned my background in exercise physiology. And so a part of that is really understanding epidemiology as it relates to physical activity or inactivity. And so reading a lot of those studies over the years, when I was an undergrad and graduate student, sort of a consistent message was that Black people are not active. Black people don't exercise. They're the least physically active of any demographic group, and in particular, Black women. And Black women, have these these body image ideals that they like to be thick, and they don't want to lose weight, and they don't care about being healthy, and all these kinds of messages that simply did not match my lived experience, and it didn't match the experience that I knew of people in my family, in my friend group, folks that I knew, right? So the message that was in the research in my area, my discipline of kinesiology, I knew was flawed and incomplete. And so one light bulb moment happened for me when I was a doctoral student, and I was really trying to narrow down my dissertation topic. And I went to the Atlanta Peachtree Road Race, and they bring it's a 10K, 60 or 70,000 people do it every 4th of July. And so I went to that for the first time, and I was there, and I was like, whoa, look at all these Black people. How could you be here and then go read this research that I've been reading and think the two really are speaking to the same population? It's not. And so the womanist perspective helped me to see when I did my dissertation, I listened to people's stories. It helped me look from a lens of strength and knowledge and choice and power instead of deficiency, right? So if I'm looking, I did interviews for my research, and if a person says, I'm choosing to read a book because it brings me peace of mind, I'm choosing not to run because I have all these horrible memories about when I was a track athlete and coaches yelling at me, I don't see that as a barrier, right? A barrier to her physical activity. I see it as a choice that she's making. And so reading outside of kinesiology, and especially sort of that womanist scholarship, helps me to tell a different story. I think it's the main effect, and tell a story about the research in the world that varies from the typical story that we might see in kinesiology.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for that. I like how you touched on, the womanism, and especially with that Black woman experience as well. Um, that kind of leads into my next question. So our organization, Sport Helps Everyone Make Allies, or SHEMA, aims to foster an inclusive community within the sport management program at our university and beyond. Have you ever experienced any exclusion working in the sports industry that's vastly male dominated? Oh, sorry, I don't know what happened here. Sorry, that's vastly male dominated, or whether that may be, yes, because of gender or race or any other type of opportunities.
Yes. One story. So once I was a coach. I was a professional coach. So I've been coaching since my freshman year in college, on a volunteer basis, consistently the whole time. But I did have a stint where I was a professional coach. I was a college coach, and I remember a situation where I I was just in a sort of a conflict with one of my coworkers, and went to a mentor for advice. And that advice was, you girls just need to work it out. Just girls just need to get over it. And I remember in that moment thinking, one, I'm a professional. Two, I'm a full grown up. Three, I have a master's degree and I have coached at the highest levels. Like, I had just come off of coaching NFL players and helping them with their speed training. And so that comment was so insulting on so many different levels. And at the time, I can't say that I understood where it comes from, but now I can see it coming from a place where women are seen as um, less capable of performing their jobs in the same professional way as men, especially when it comes to the sport industry. And I can tell you that I didn't last long there. I think I'll talk to Brooklyn about this a little bit. But for a person like me who works really hard, if I don't know something, I ask the questions and I try to figure out the answer. And my entire goal is always to be successful. And especially when I was in charge of coaching athletes and young people and mentoring and preparing them for whatever it was that I could help them prepare for, that comment was completely dismissive of what I was all about. And so that is a moment that was really the moment in sports that I remember being dismissed that way. What has been the majority of my experience is that I have been in situations where, um, I've been mentored by and worked alongside of other men and women who are just there to do the same job that I was there to do. We all are respectful of each other and really work toward the same goal. So that has been the majority of my experience, but I do remember that when I was a young professional. And I will say that I didn't know how to respond at the time. I don't even know that I did, except to say, like, at the moment, I didn't say anything. Now I will have plenty of comeback, let me tell you. But then I just didn't. It was such a shock because it was something that I had just never, ever experienced and did not understand, again, because it was completely against who I was. But yeah, I see it a lot. We see it now. One of the concerning sort of statistics around that might indicate that discrimination still exists, but not in this blatant way, in blatant ways, is that on the youth level in particular, and then even on the college and pro levels, we see an inordinate amount of male coaches coaching girls. We don't see as many
Mhm.
female coaches as we need to coach as we need. There's just an underrepresentation of women coaches, and there is some research out there that says that even we're teaching our young girls to respect male coaches more than they respect women coaches, sometimes simply because they haven't had a woman as a coach. And so Brooklyn knows that I encourage all of my students to coach at the youth level, but in particular, I want us to train and prepare more women and girls to be coaches because we just need that perspective. Um, so I think things are getting better, but yeah, we gotta be prepared for those situations as well.
That's
For
great.
sure, yeah.
Sorry, I didn't want to cut you off, Madeline.
Oh, all good, you're good.
No, I appreciate you saying that as well. I can honestly say that I had, I think, one coach that was a woman. She was coaching with another man as well. But out of my whole lifespan that I've played sports, once that I have a coach as a woman. So I'm really glad that you touched upon that. And I think it draws back from just the beginning where there's been quite a few youth players that didn't see themselves continuing in sports as they got older. Being a girl in youth sports and looking at their future, they admitted that they didn't feel like there was a place for them in the sport industry, which is very unfortunate. And I do agree that it is getting a little bit better, but it's still a very important and large topic that should be discussed. So I appreciate you mentioning that as well. You did kind of touch on this a little bit, but when I was in your class, I definitely felt very included and welcomed. I felt equal to everybody that was in that room. So I got to experience it firsthand, but do you mind explaining how you ensure that everyone feels comfortable and valued in your classes or even on your teams that you coach?
Y'all got some awesome questions. You see me smile when you come. Um, well, thank you for the compliment. That is one of my goals. Probably my top goal is that every single person who comes through my classroom feels like they belong there, feels like they can succeed in my class. Seems like, um, feels like, this is a place that was designed for them. And so I'm glad that that came across. One of the main ways that I do that is by asking for students to share their stories. And so, Brooklyn, you might remember there was always a discussion. Like,
Yeah.
there's always a discussion prompt where we'll first read something, then we might go over a couple of tips here and there or an outline. But then it is take what we're learning and think about your own experience. Think about how what we read about reflects your experience, or think about how your experience is not yet quite captured in that research. And that might come, again, from my own experience as a student who spent years learning what people said about me and my group, but then realizing that that wasn't quite the true story. And so I don't want that to ever happen. I always value the knowledge that our students bring into the classroom. I value their experiences. I value the fact that we all see and live in this world different ways, and we can all learn something from each other. And so, I do that through, again, discussion, inviting students to share their experiences. When I have the if I'm ever in a smaller classroom, you didn't experience this because I think we had 60 people in the class. But if I can have smaller groups, I'll actually co-create the class with students. So we look at readings. What do we want to read? What assignments do we want to do? I try to be very, very cooperative. And hopefully that comes through in letting, especially college age students, know that you have something, you belong in this field, you belong in this discipline, you belong at college, and you have lots of tools and a lot of value to take out into the world when you leave. And so a highlight of what I do is the thing that I want to teach, I guess, or to make sure that my students leave the classroom with, and then we talk about the content after that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's I learned so much from your class. I'm not just saying that for the interview. I learned a lot from your class. Like I said, after every class I would call my mom and be like, "This is what I learned," and she has no idea. Like she's not in sports. But she's like, "Oh my goodness, that's great," knowing that she just really doesn't know. But no, I learned a lot, and it made me feel more confident because I've always thought about coaching and training. Like I love helping athletes. I may not be able to play anymore, but I still want to be fully involved and also help athletes. So I've always thought about it, but kind of on the edge. And your class definitely taught me a lot about coaching that I'd never really thought about. And also just made me feel a little bit more comfortable and confident that I could do it. So thank you for that as well. And I do remember we do like the little group discussions too. We'll have the full class, the little group discussions. The assignments that you had were very helpful. Sometimes you go in and you're a little nervous, but I think it was a great learning experience overall. Um, and you were very welcoming as well. As you know, I came to your office hours all the time. All the time.
Yes.
But yeah, so I do appreciate that, and I'm sure everyone else feels the same way as well.
Well,
Um,
that's great. I
No,
do.
yeah.
I do. Um, like I said, I just want everybody to know there are so many youth sport opportunities out there, and so many well-meaning people who are not trained in how to um, create and provide a positive youth sport experience.
mhm.
And so I really do, in that class, we had 60 again. So that I feel like is my opportunity to make sure that at least 60 people are prepared to go out there and provide this positive youth sport experience. Knowing that folks like you and a few others are looking at the next level, maybe sport management, maybe coaching at the collegiate or professional level. But the main opportunities are at the youth level. And I want to make sure that I do everything I can to make folks feel confident like you and capable so that we can go out and fill those spots.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I definitely feel more comfortable, and I still use the knowledge that I've learned from your class to this day for more than just sport. So I remember one article, I don't remember the title, but I do remember one article, and it was talking about get comfortable being uncomfortable. And I actually just used that in a meeting I recently had because I strongly believe that, and the conversations need to be had. Like we need to have them. So I still use all everything that you taught me to this day. Um, we have one more question. Madeline, can you go ahead and ask?
Yeah, just commenting on what you were saying before. I love how you mentioned you want to make everyone feel like they belong, like that sense of belonging. And in college, in that program, in that the field, in the whole industry, I think that was really great. I mean, I obviously can't touch on, experiencing a class with you, but Brooklyn has spoke so highly about you. So but yeah, no, I think that's amazing. So knowing, being immersed in sports your whole life, you were saying your whole family, your father, your grandfather, it was a big part of your life, obviously. I mean, I won't speak for you, but I know for myself and for Brooklyn, and I feel like for a lot of people, it's more than just a game, and you can do a lot with sports. And so we were thinking, what are your thoughts specifically on, for example, NBA teams right now using their platform to help kind of make a change in the world today?
I think it's awesome. Um, People are people. And those NBA players do not, and none of us have the privilege of leaving who we are outside of the building.
Mhm.
And so, with especially with the message that they're promoting, the messages that they're promoting right now, they're speaking on behalf of their families and the people they grew up with, the people in the communities where they were raised. They're not just randomly picking some cause that they're jumping on the bandwagon for. And so I see them taking the risk. It's a real risk in terms of endorsements and in terms of we saw what happened with Colin Kaepernick,
Mhm.
right? That so it's risky for them to speak out this way, but they also have an awesome platform and tons of influence. And so I am on board with what they are promoting because they're promoting equality.
Mhm.
And so for that reason alone, I'm really proud. I'm happy to see what they're doing. They are following the WNBA, which has been, about social justice publicly for a long time. They are following athletes like Muhammad Ali, who spoke out decades ago. The 1968 Olympians that we had, track and field, Tommy Smith and John Carlos. And so there is a history of athlete activism, but there's also a history of penalizing that.
Mhm.
And so I think now what's different is that there is a shift in terms of power dynamics where it's not quite as easy to be devastating to devastate the career of an athlete who speaks out, right? It's still a risk, but hopefully the athletes who speak out these days won't face the same types of consequences that Colin Kaepernick faced.
Mhm.
So I'm really proud to see it happening. And
Mhm.
Yeah.
it's not just in basketball. It's not just the Black athletes. It's
Mhm.
not just the American athletes. It's a movement that goes far and wide, and that is really exciting. From our perspective, I'm looking forward to what happens on the college campuses when we go back, because I expect that this is a movement in particular of the young people, folks in your generation,
Mhm.
and that spans the college age population. And so, folks who are not on board, it's time to get on board, and y'all are going to make sure that we get it together. And so I'm excited to see them doing this work.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm really happy that I mean, not even just athletes or NBA specifically, but that everyone's kind of coming together and fighting for what we believe in and for the change that needs to happen today. So I'm excited too to see what happens with the colleges in the United States and in Canada. I mean, that's one thing that SHEMA is really trying to do. We are based in Canada, and we needed a foundation, which is why we started with our students at the university. But we are hoping to expand above and beyond. So.
Yeah,
Um,
can you tell me more about what y'all are doing? I'm so excited for you. This is great.
um, yeah, so I'll explain a little bit and then Madeline can go ahead too as well. So we're studying sport management, as you know, and our organization SHEMA works to stand at the forefront of the sport management program as a place to help students feel welcome and included. We've had a few instances where people have dropped out of the program, didn't even bother going into the program because they felt it wasn't for them or that they wouldn't feel welcomed, or experiences where they actually didn't feel welcome and that's why they left. So we can see that our program is male dominated for sure within the students and the faculty. So that is something that we're trying to expand on as well. Yeah, I'll let Madeline go as well.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So one of our main visions is that, we strive to cultivate a collective sense of belonging, everyone together. Sport helps make everyone allies. So not just people that may feel excluded, but, the allies as well that, want to stand up for this cause and just, help have an inclusive, space, a diversified community, and a unified approach to, constant education and self-improvement across the entirety of not just our program at our school, but beyond as well into the industry and far beyond. I just finished my first year in the program, and definitely I'd go into my classes, and you can absolutely see there, is very little, female students around that I'm looking around. And then within that, very few, students of color as well in the program. So I know some people I would talk about, what I'm doing at school, what I'm studying, and, they wouldn't even think of that being a thing. And they'd comment, almost everyone I've talked to, they comment, say, that's quite bold for a woman to be going into that program. It's quite bold for a woman to be going into that industry. Why not? I've been a part of sports all my life. I think, and I just want other women just to be able to feel, that they can do this.
Mm-hmm. No,
That's
yeah.
awesome. So you all are going about it the right way. I'm really proud of you. Um, um, that sense of being included or not,
Mm-hmm.
right? Unfortunately, that feeling is real for a lot of folks, and they leave.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes a few people who have that feeling but want to stay in it and change things. And it sounds like that's what you all are doing. It's to stay in it, um, and maybe not always feeling included. Maybe you don't always get your name called or, get those awards, but you being in it and then growing this organization, growing opportunities for yourselves and others is going to change that landscape. And so I just want to say I'm proud of what you're doing. Oh my goodness. Keep me posted on how it goes. Keep it up. Stay in the fight. it's going to pay off in ways that I'm sure you can't even imagine yet. So that's really great.
Thank you. We appreciate that a lot. We are trying our best. This is our first year, so we have plans in mind. So we're hoping to get that in. Just to touch on Madeline's point as well, I think it's funny how it affects people differently. So some people didn't even bother trying to go into the sport industry. Myself, always been about sports, definitely going into the industry no matter what. And to me, walking into the lecture hall, the fact that it was male dominated didn't even occur to me because that's the way it's been forever. I've dealt with that my whole life. And that's the problem. That shouldn't be normalized. Like to walk into a lecture of like well over 100 people and I can count 10 women, that's also what we're trying to change as well. We want them to feel welcome, to come into the lecture hall and be like, okay, like comfortable and things like that as well. So it definitely will help people in all sorts of ways.
It will. And what you're doing, and I always point back to, I had so many wonderful mentors growing up. My first track coach was Dr. Brenda Armstrong. She was a pediatric cardiologist at Duke University who somehow found time to volunteer her time to coach us kids. She was my first coach. She was a powerful woman. She was maybe 5 feet tall, short, but everybody listened to Coach Doc. And then I had Dr. Janice Hilliard, who was the director of our athlete academic services when I was a student athlete at Chapel Hill. And Dr. Hilliard was, I would say, the person who saw my academic potential as a college student. And she was the one who encouraged me to apply for scholarships. She was the person who put me up for certain awards. She was sort of that person who saw me for, the person that I could be academically. A lot of people saw my athletic talent and recognized that, but she was able to say, I see more in you and I'm going to help you get there. And that is another reason why I think what you're doing is so important, is that representation matters, not just in being able to see people like yourself when you walk into the lecture hall, but also having people who are already there who are going to say, nope, I'm not going to let you give up.
Yeah.
Nope, I know what you want to do, and here's how I'm going to help you get there. And so your role, I see it you're young, but you're already that type of leader, where you can look around and see the other people who might be tuning out and go and grab them and say, listen, get it together. You need to be here. And those people are so important. And especially knowing that now you're going to have the perspective to understand why folks don't feel included. You're going to have the perspective to do things differently to change that environment. And so you're really making a big difference already, and it's gonna be good.
Thank you. Yeah, we're excited to see how this goes. Again, as Brooklyn was saying, this is just the first year, so lots of opportunities. So
yeah, it'll be great. We have lots.
Well, listen, I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much for coming on and talking with us and sharing your experiences. I really appreciate it.
It was great meeting you. Thank you for this.
And I think y'all met Dallas, who
Yes.
does the virtual background. She popped in.
She's
so you can edit that part off if you want to. Yeah, but it was good. Brooklyn, it's good to see you. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
Madeleine, nice to meet you. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
Y'all keep me posted on what's going on.
I will definitely send you an email afterwards as well. So yeah, thank you so much again for coming on and being our first interview for SHEMA.
Yes, I'm gonna add that to my resume.
Yes,
perfect.
All right.
Well,
let me know if you need anything else, and I will keep y'all posted if I see opportunities or.
Amazing.
Brooklyn knows I'm trying to get her to come back to UNCG. Sounds like you're doing big things, so I won't pull you away right now.
Yeah, we need her right now.
I know, yes, it sounds like it.
All right. Well, enjoy the rest of your weekend and
Okay.
keep staying safe.
All right, you too. Bye.
Thank you.